Ferntree Gully, outside Melbourne, early 1980s. Nobody here is writing your name down as the future. You're not the disciplined one. You're not the kid who turns up early and stays back for extra drills. You're the one who gets bored of doing things the way you're told, and starts doing them the way that feels right instead. On the local oval, that means bowling leg spin, a dying art even then, something most young cricketers your age have already given up trying to master because it's harder to control and easier to get smashed for runs. You don't care. You like watching the ball do things it isn't supposed to do. As a teenager, you're good enough at Australian rules football that some people think that's where your future lies, not cricket. You play both. Cricket eventually wins, mostly because of the way it makes you feel when a leg break actually does what you want it to. You get a shot at the Australian Cricket Academy in Adelaide, the country's most prestigious pathway for young talent, a place built to turn promising kids into the next generation of Test cricketers. It should be the making of you. Instead, you clash constantly with the coaching staff. You don't like the discipline, the structure, the rules about diet and curfew. Partway through the program, you're effectively told to leave, or you leave before they have to say it more directly, depending on who's telling the story. Either way, it looks like the end of a promising but undisciplined career before it's properly begun. Most young cricketers who wash out of the academy never make it back onto the national radar. January 1992. Sydney Cricket Ground. Your first Test match, against India. You're 22 years old, uncapped, unproven at this level, and it shows. You take 1 wicket across the match. It costs 150 runs. On paper, this isn't a promising debut. It's the kind of performance that gets a young player quietly dropped and forgotten, one name among dozens of Australians who played a handful of tests and never returned. But someone in Australian cricket sees something the figures don't capture. A former Test leg spinner named Terry Jenner, a man who served time in prison for fraud earlier in his own life, and understands better than almost anyone what it means to rebuild something from very little, starts working with you. It's not really about technique at first. Your action is already good. It's about giving you the belief that leg spin bowling, this notoriously unpredictable art, can be trusted as a genuine attacking weapon at Test level, not just an occasional surprise. Session after session, the wildness that got you into trouble as a teenager starts turning into something closer to control, without losing the unpredictability that makes you dangerous. June 1993. Old Trafford, Manchester. Your first Ashes Test against England. Your first ball of the series. Mike Gatting, a vastly experienced English batsman, someone who has faced the best bowlers in the world for over a decade, is on strike. You come in, and you bowl a leg break that pitches well outside his leg stump. To any batsman watching, it looks like it's going nowhere near the stumps. Gatting doesn't move his feet to cover it. And then the ball grips, spins sharply back across him, and clips the very top of off stump. For a full second, nobody in the ground really understands what just happened, including Gatting himself, who stands rooted to the spot, half smiling, half bewildered, as if waiting for someone to explain the physics of what just occurred. In the commentary box, veteran broadcaster Richie Bernard is momentarily lost for words trying to describe it. It gets replayed from every possible angle, in slow motion, over and over, because nobody can quite believe a cricket ball can move that much off the pitch. Within days, it has a name that will follow you for the rest of your career, the ball of the century. Overnight, you go from a fringe selection with an underwhelming debut to the most talked-about young bowler in the world. Leg spin, a discipline many had assumed was fading out of the international game entirely, suddenly looks like the most dangerous skill in cricket again, purely because of what you just did with 1 ball. The persona grows alongside the bowling. Bleached blonde hair, an earring, a swagger that traditional, buttoned-up Australian cricket hasn't really produced before. The English press nicknames you Hollywood, half mocking, half fascinated. You don't just play the game with skill, you play it with theatre, with needle, with constant chat toward batsmen designed to unsettle them before the ball even leaves your hand. Crowds in Australia and England alike can't stop watching, whether they love you or resent you for it. Often, it's both at once. Then, 1994, on tour in Pakistan. According to what later becomes public, Pakistan's captain at the time, Salim Malik, allegedly approaches you and your teammate Mark Waugh, offering money to deliberately underperform and help fix the outcome of a Test match. You both refuse. At the time, nobody outside your own dressing room knows any of this happened. It stays buried for years. What does come out, much sooner and far more damagingly, is something else entirely. It emerges that back in 1994, you and Mark Waugh had separately accepted money from an Indian bookmaker, for what you both describe only as pitch and weather information, nothing to do with results or performance. Cricket Australia investigates quietly at the time, finds you both, and says nothing publicly. For 4 years, it stays a private matter between you, WA, and the board. Then, in 1998, it leaks. And once it's public, quiet is no longer an option. Newspapers across Australia and the cricketing world run it as a full-blown scandal. Money changing hands between international players and a bookmaker, however innocuous the explanation, in a sport still recovering its reputation after match-fixing controversies elsewhere in the world. You're accused, loudly and repeatedly, of selling out the integrity of the game that made you a household name. You keep playing. You keep taking wickets at an extraordinary rate. But the golden boy image that carried you through the early 1990s is cracked in a way it will never fully repair. Then, in 2000, another headline. Lewd text messages you'd sent to a British nurse you met in a nightclub become public, splashed across tabloids on both sides of the world. Cricket Australia strips you of the vice-captaincy, a role many assumed was the natural stepping stone to captaining the national team outright, a job that, after this, you will never be given. Your marriage to your wife Simone, already under visible strain from years of public scrutiny, takes another hit it may never recover from. February 2003. The day before Australia's opening match of the Cricket World Cup, the single biggest tournament in the sport, one you've spent your whole career building toward. A routine drug test comes back positive for a banned diuretic. Your explanation is that it was a fluid tablet given to you by your mother, taken to look leaner on camera, nothing to do with performance enhancement. Almost nobody in a position of authority accepts that the intent matters. You're sent home from the World Cup in disgrace before it's even started, and handed a 12-month ban from all cricket. For a year, there is no international cricket for you. No World Cup. No Ashes. You train largely alone, without the structure and competition that has shaped your entire adult life, wondering, at 33, an age when many bowlers are already in decline, whether this is genuinely the end or just an unbearably long pause. It's a pause. March 2004, your first test back from the ban, you take your 500th test wicket, becoming just the second bowler in the sport's history to reach that number. The exile didn't finish your career. It barely slowed it down. By 2005, your personal life is falling apart in full public view, the marriage to Simone effectively over, played out across newspaper front pages in both countries. In the middle of all of it, playing for England's opposition in one of the most closely fought Ashes series ever contested, you produce arguably the best cricket of your entire career, 40 wickets across the series, a performance so dominant that even though Australia lose the Ashes for the first time in nearly 2 decades, your own contribution is remembered as one of the greatest individual campaigns the format has ever seen. Boxing Day, 2006. Melbourne Cricket Ground. Your home ground. 89,155 people packed into the stands, still, to this day, one of the largest crowds ever to watch a day of Test cricket anywhere in the world. You bowl England's Andrew Strauss, and it's your 700th Test wicket, a number no bowler in the history of the sport has ever reached before. The crowd rises as one. You simply shake your head, almost disbelieving, as if even you can't quite process the scale of what your career has become since that one ball in Manchester 13 years earlier. You retire at the end of that Ashes series, on your own terms, at the top, with 708 Test wickets to your name, a world record that will stand for barely a year before Muttiah Muralitharan surpasses it. You never really needed to hold the record forever. You needed the moment, and you got it, in front of your home crowd, on your own ground. Retirement from Test cricket doesn't mean disappearing from the sport. You captain Rajasthan Royals, one of the newly formed franchises in the brand new Indian Premier League, to the tournament's first ever title in 2008, an unfashionable underdog team built almost entirely around your leadership and reading of the game. You become one of the most sought-after voices in cricket broadcasting, blunt and insightful in a way few former players manage. Your relationship with Hollywood actress Elizabeth Hurley becomes tabloid fixture in its own right. The soap opera that followed you through your playing days never really ends. It just moves to a different stage. March 4, 2022. Koh Samui, Thailand. You suffer a suspected heart attack and die at 52 years old. The reaction across the cricketing world, teammates, rivals, commentators, people who spent decades either playing alongside you or trying to work out how to get you out, is some version of the same sentence, over and over, nobody saw this coming. 708 Test wickets. One single delivery that changed how the entire cricketing world thought about leg spin bowling. A career people are still arguing about, years later, genius, or a life of chaos with extraordinarily good timing, and most people who actually watched you play don't really bother separating the two anymore. Second only to Bradman, in the eyes of most who saw you at your best, and even that comparison probably undersells just how much noise, drama, and sheer unpredictability came bundled together with the brilliance.